I sold a $3,500 piano and replaced it with one that costs 1/3 of the price. And it turned out to be one of the best decisions I've made. But let's go back to the beginning. A year and a half ago I bought the Roland LX-5. In fact, it was the very first piano I featured on this channel, and that video ended up becoming my most successful one. The LX-5 is an incredible digital piano in many ways, but for almost 12 months I tried to convince myself I had made the right decision. But something felt off. I had doubts from the beginning, but I assumed I was just overthinking, so I kept playing, hoping it would eventually start to feel right. But it never did. And that's when I realized something important. A great instrument is not always the right instrument for you. So what went wrong in my case? Here are 3 real reasons I sold the Roland LX-5 and bought a Yamaha DGX-670 instead. And by the way, if you enjoy honest conversations about instruments, please consider subscribing. It would mean a lot to me and you will contribute to the growth of this channel. Reason number 1, the action was too heavy. Years ago, when buying my first digital piano, I rejected Roland because the action felt too heavy. Later, when upgrading, I gave Roland another try in a store. I discovered you can reduce the key touch level. At first, it felt lighter. What I didn't know back then is that this setting doesn't really change the physical weight of the keys. It only changes how the sound engine responds to the key press. The mechanism stays heavy anyway. After having it at home for a few weeks, I realized that I felt fatigue in my hands after 30 minutes of playing. I could play for hours on a light synth action of my Innovation Summit, but not on my new Roland. Over time I started playing less and less, and it stopped being fun. That was a turning point and the main reason I decided to sell it. Reason number 2, I overspent. I was playing 15 to 30 minutes a day on average on a $3,500 instrument. Before Roland LX-5, I used to have Casio CDP S110 for like $360. What I really needed was 1 or 2 steps up from what I had, not a 10 times more expensive piano. It was a classic case of gear acquisition syndrome called G.A.S. It's a well-known phenomenon among music enthusiasts. We are drawn to expensive, glossy instruments, even if we don't actually need them or won't use them to their full potential. My teachers were playing on a $1,000 instrument with incredible skills. I had the opposite, expensive gear and limited abilities to play on it. When I sold Roland, I decided I would only upgrade again once I truly outgrow the instrument. To my surprise, this decision brought relief. Reason number 3, the piano sound felt artificial. When I reviewed the Roland LX-5, I mentioned that the piano sound didn't feel fully realistic to me. The LX-5 uses physical modeling instead of traditional sampling. Technically it's sophisticated, the dynamic response is huge. Yet over time the tone felt too digital to me, especially at lighter touch settings where it became noticeably brighter. It wasn't a deal breaker, as I knew about it in the beginning, and I solved this issue with piano tech. The Shigeru Kawai, Bösendorf and Steinway models sounded fantastic, but the heavy action was still there and I couldn't keep it. Interestingly, the only Roland model piano sounds preset I truly loved were the German concert piano in the RD2000X stage piano and Phantom X workstation. That sound felt much closer to what I was looking for. Personally, I would love to see Roland include that preset in the LX series. These instruments are designed to resemble acoustic pianos, and having that particular sound engine inside them would make the experience feel more complete. And again, LX-5 is an impressive instrument. The build quality is excellent, the action is super solid and praised by many, the speakers are powerful and the headphone experience is second to none. You may find it confusing, but I posted a positive review about Roland LX-5 on YouTube, and now I'm changing my mind. Actually, it happens quite often, as we are not fully aware of all our needs and don't have access to all of the available digital piano models when making our decision. I've heard many satisfied LX users, and it's superb from them, and that's okay too. So why I switched from Roland to Yamaha? I eventually chose the Yamaha DGX-670 because it addressed the three issues I had with the Roland. First of all, the lighter keyboard action. This model uses Yamaha's graded hammer standard action called G.A.S. I know many people online criticize it because the action is a plastic action, no wood, found in more affordable models, but also, on the other hand, you can find it in Yamaha DGX-8, which is a giggy musician workstation. And yes, it's not as close to a grand piano as higher-end actions, but for me it was more than enough. And it seems it's enough for many professional stage players as well. I use the soft 2-key touch setting, and it feels great, finally. When I first researched Yamaha, I tested several of the models, but I didn't have access to the DGX nor Yamaha DGX-8, which I also liked. Because of that limited exposure, I rejected the brand entirely, and that was a mistake. Second thing, it was the price of the gear and my skills. DGX costs around $1,000 in Europe, and in the US you can find it for $800. I added a dedicated stand and 3 pedals, which I truly recommend, and the final bill was around $1,200. That's about 30% of the price of LX-5, and it is much more aligned with my current needs and skill levels. When I tested DGX in the store, I was genuinely surprised by how much it offered for the money. I almost didn't believe it. Later, when I read reviews online, I realized many people consider it underrated and underpriced for what it delivers, and I totally agree with it. And the third point was, of course, the piano sound. The Yamaha CFX Grand sound really instantly inspired me. It has warm lows, clear highs, they almost reminded me of the sound of water droplets, consistent tone across the whole keyboard. I know that higher-end models like the Yamaha P525 or the Clavinova series use more complex sound engines designed to emulate a concert grand piano experience as realistically as possible. But for me, the realism stage piano was not the priority, and I actually preferred the piano sound of DGX. It surprised me, but later I saw a professional musician on YouTube reached a similar conclusion when comparing these two models.
Don't judge me, but I think I like the sound on that one better because there's more resonance, there's more colour, there's more of it, and they're using the exact same sound. I have the exact same sound programmed into both, so that's food for thought, isn't it?
For these high-end models, there should also be an option for more produced piano sound, something closer to what you hear in the songs like by Elton John, ABBA or Coldplay. A piano with wide stereo sound, a bit of sound character, a modern mix and some brilliance. The DGX delivers that kind of sound straight out of the box. When it comes to headphone sound, many digital pianos disappoint, and let's be honest, many of us mostly play with headphones. Not because we want to, but because we have to avoid disturbing family or neighbors. So headphone quality isn't a small detail. For many players like me, it's the main experience. With DGX, the headphone sound is clear, wide and inspiring. So what's the conclusion? At the end of the day, I realized I simply prefer Yamaha's overall sound character. from the iconic 80s DGX-7 style tone to brass, strings and acoustic guitars and of course the piano. There is a popular opinion online that says if you want great pianos and sampled sounds, go with Yamaha. If you want powerful synth engines, go with Roland. And after that experience I finally understand what people mean. This was never about Roland versus Yamaha. It was about understanding myself better. The Roland LX-5, as I mentioned before, is an outstanding instrument. For the right person, it's probably perfect, but I'm not that person. What I needed was something lighter, simpler, less expensive, more aligned with how and why I actually play. Switching to Yamaha DGX reminded me of something important. It's not about buying the best instrument, it's about buying the right instrument for your current stage. Sometimes we think we need something professional, but growth doesn't come from price tags, it comes from consistency, from joy, from actually sitting down and playing. The moment I switched, I started playing more, and that's when I knew I had made the right decision. If you are in the middle of choosing your next instrument, don't just ask yourself, is this piano great? Ask yourself, will this piano make me want to play tomorrow? Because that's what really matters. And if this story helped you think differently about your own decisions, consider subscribing. I would love to build a community of musicians who choose their instruments consciously and play because they truly want to. Thank you.